Hi, I'm Neetu Mirchandani. I'm known to some of you as the key opinion leader, Super Mommy. I'm a lawyer and an entrepreneur. I have two boys, Zayden, age 14, and Xavier, age 11. I will be your host today. Please be reminded to post your questions in the Q&A box. We will do our best to answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Now, let me introduce our wonderful panelists. Alsen Chanamuto is a father of 3 young children and has been happily married for 11 years. He has over a decade of experience as a primary school teacher, in the primary school sector. He is an experienced educator who firmly believes that the best degree of engagement for effective learning can be achieved through excellent facilitation and well-designed presentations. As the school's engagement manager in primary schools at the Center for Fathering, Alsen combines his passion for education and parenting to inspire parents, especially fathers, to become better role models and strengthen families. Our next panelist, Dr. Koh Liang Hwee, is highly qualified and experienced optometrist with a strong academic background. He is the immediate past president of the Singapore Optometric Association and now serves as an advisor to the council. With years of experience in the optometry field, Dr. Koh is a trusted professional in the industry. He is dedicated to providing his patients with exceptional eye care services, ensuring that they receive the best possible treatment for their vision-related concerns.
Hi, everyone. Good evening to you. I hope you've had a good meal or you're eating while watching this, and that's fine as well. So today I'm here to talk about being plugged in, connecting with your digital child. And as Neetu and I were just kind of talking about it, we have our own experiences with our children. And I hope to share some of these experiences I've had either as a parent or as a teacher in the school as well. So I hope that it's useful as we go along. So just to kind of start it off, in today's world, technology has become an integral part of our daily lives. Children are growing up in a digital world. We can't run away from that, right? Where technology is everywhere. With the increasing availability of smartphones, tablets, computers, and other digital devices, parents are often worried about the impact of technology. I'm sure most of you out there are worried and thinking about it, and that's why you're here today, I'm sure. So, however, it is important to note that technology can be a powerful tool for learning and development. So today, we want to explore why technology is good for our children, how can it benefit them in the different ways, and how we as parents can connect with our digital child. So that's what we're going to be answering this morning. Let me see if I've got control. Okay. Now, what am I kind of covering this evening? Sorry, did I just say morning? This evening, I'm going to cover how understanding your digital child. How can we understand our digital child better? How do we connect with our digital child? And how do we then set boundaries for our children? And more importantly, as parents, how do we role model that for them? Right? I know that's very difficult sometimes because we come back home tired from a day of work, and the last thing we're thinking about is modeling for our kids, not watching Netflix. Right? How many of you here watch Netflix? Okay, don't put up your hands. I can see it already. Right. So let's move on. Now, how do we understand our digital child? I think a lot of times we as parents, especially if you're from the older generation, right, we tend to think that it's not my thing, right? It's just not my thing. I don't really like to game. I don't really like to use social media. And when we tell our children that, and when they're talking to us about these things, and we say, hey, I'm not interested. I don't really want to hear about social media. I don't really want to hear about your gaming experiences. What you're actually kind of communicating to them is, I'm not interested in you. And that's not what we as parents want to do. We want to show an interest in the things that they are looking at, the things that they're talking about, and to show them that we're interested in what they are doing. And by doing that, it actually fosters a connection, that shows that you care about what they care about. Right. And that's what our kids want, to know that our parents care about what they care about. And so I just want to encourage us as parents to think about how many times have we kind of shut our kids off when they come to us and tell us about the latest game they're playing or the latest show they're watching, about the latest social media trends. Now, I think it's important that we have conversations with them. Don't be quick to dismiss them and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't go and follow your friends. That's the first instinct we have, right? To scold control them, to say, don't do this, don't do that. And a lot of times that kind of puts them off, and then they might start to not kind of talk to us anymore. And that's not what we want, right? So let me move on, sorry. Now, how then do we connect with, for example, a gaming child, right? So we're talking about a digital child, the many aspects of a digital child. We're talking about gaming child. So how do we connect with them? We have to grab the controller and join them, right? Now, we want to show them that we are not afraid of games. Gaming is not bad. We want to be part of it. We want to be able to learn from them. Now, some of us out there, especially I'm seeing some of the mummies, maybe you might be thinking, I don't play games at all. How am I going to do this? Now, I just want you to know that sometimes it's good enough for the child to know that you're just sitting with them and watching them play the game as well, just to watch how they go about doing the different jumps, the tricks they do on the game, how they going about sneaking up on an enemy. It may not be very interesting to you per se, but I think when they see you are being concerned about what they're doing, I think they will really begin to start to talk to you more, open up to you more. I think one of the things as a teacher, I get, especially with the primary 5, primary 6 parents that came to see me last time, would be the question they ask is, how come my son doesn't talk to me? How come my daughter doesn't talk to me anymore? Then my question to you, to the parent, would be, have you been consistently talking to them? Have you been consistently being part of their life? Now, if you have been, I think it's easy then when your child will come to you naturally and talk to you. So again, one of my suggestions is just get involved, do the little things with them. And as you do those things, you have conversations with them. So grabbing a controller is one of the easiest ways, whether it's a Nintendo Switch, PS5, whether it's a mobile game, just grab the controller, join in, play with them. I think that's important.
But Alsen, this is also good for people with younger kids, right?
That's right.
It's not just for us with the older kids, but the younger kids are also starting to play games, I guess, on
I think most of
iPads
our audience we were talking about was like 4 to 7, and 0 to 2, right? I remember my 6-year-old, when he was 4 or 3, or even my 9-year-old, when we first got the Nintendo Switch, one of the things we used to play was Just Dance. Where you just have to follow the movement on the screen, right? It's fun, it's easy. And when they see you play with them, they laugh at you, they laugh with you, and then they begin to enjoy it with you as well. I think that's important. We'll talk a little bit more about joining in with the games later on. I have a portion on that as well, but there's
great.
All right, now, why do I say get involved? I think one of the quotes that I like by Professor Andrew, I don't know how to pronounce his full name. I think he's Russian, Priblisky. He says that screens, games, and social media are the royal road into the internal lives and the behavioral lives of young people today. And I think that's really true. If we want to know more about our kids, we need to know what are the things they're watching, what are the games they're playing, what are the social media things that they're doing. So for example, our 5-year-old, our 4-year-old, sometimes you may give them some screen time and you say, okay, watch YouTube. Now, what they like to watch gives you a clue into what they're interested in, right? For example, I remember my son used to like Blippi, and I could never understand why he liked Blippi. This guy talking about different things on the screen, but that's what he liked. And I used to talk to him and have conversations about it. My daughter, on the other hand, when she was younger, she used to like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood because there was a lot of songs. They would sing songs, and that was what interested him. And from that young age, as I continue to talk to her right now at 9 years old, she's willing to share. She's willing to tell me about the different YouTube videos that she might come across. And again, we really need to know what our kids are doing, but we can't expect, like, demand that from them. We have to be part of it from a young age so that they come alongside us, right? Now, another important aspect of why I'm asking everyone to get involved in the gaming and the social media is when you know what it feels like to play the game or to use the social media app, you will know how to set boundaries for your child. Now, if we don't know how the game works, for example, let me give you an example. Some of the youth that I talk to, especially the secondary school kids, they'll tell me, my parents don't understand. They just tell me to come for lunch and they expect me to drop everything and come right away. Now, there are games where you have to finish the round before you can leave. It's not like you can press pause and go and have lunch, right? And so if we as parents don't understand that and we tell them, hey, come and have lunch right now, and they don't listen and you get angry. Now, that is why it's important to know what are the games they play, how does it work, what's the mechanism. And when
Alsen, you're describing me completely. That's me. Come now,
Yeah.
turn it off. So
I'm sure you're not the only one, but yeah, there are many other parents
Yes.
out there. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes I tell my daughter to switch it off now, but I don't realize she's probably in the middle of something that's important. She needs to finish. And so it's important that we have that conversation. But yeah, that's a great point. A lot of us kind of go through that, right? And so talking about setting boundaries, time limits, spending limits. Now, we need to set boundaries and limits with our children. I also want to let us know that it's not okay to just let your child do whatever they want to do, right? We do need to set boundaries because they're not old enough, they're not wise enough at that point in time to make decisions for themselves. Sometimes we need to have conversations. Sometimes we need to set the boundaries to teach them why we are setting the boundaries as well, right? So I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on. Another thing we're going to talk about is keeping up with the trends. And the last thing we're going to talk about is family games night. So earlier on, I mentioned Nintendo Switch in my family. So take family games night to another digital level. So I'll talk a little bit more in a short while. Now, how do we set a time limit with our kids, right? Now, I think it's very important that we have a conversation with our child to let them know that, hey, why do we need to set time limits? Explain to them. Now, if you are on the device for too long, can you get other useful, valuable things done? For example, homework, right? Or if you're talking about preschool children, they need to maybe learn their phonetic sounds, their reading. Instead of spending time reading, if they are only watching YouTube, then that's not going to help them in any way, right? So we need to explain to them why we're setting a time limit. Okay, let's move to the next one. Now, this is something that the Health Promotion Board actually has out there. It is done up by MOH as well. Now, what are the screen time limits? This is a question I get all the time. You know, at what age, how much time should we get? Now, it is out there. Health Promotion Board has a nice long article based on research as well. You can go and look at the website. Now, for 0 to 18 months, the recommendation is actually 0 screen time. Right? We're not supposed to let them watch at all. And why? Because it affects their brain development. All right. Now, you want to find out more, please go and read up on it. There's going to be a lot more information on the website as well. I don't have time today to go into the details. Now, for 1.5-year-olds to 6-year-olds, what is the recommended screen time? Does anyone know that? And I can't see my screen, sorry. Give me a minute. Sorry about that. Okay, it's 1 hour a day, right? For 1.5 to 6-year-old, it's 1 hour a day. Now, for 7 to 12-year-old, it's a bit more tricky, right? It's about how old they are, how much time they need to do. We have SLS, we have other things, right? So you have to have conversations to know how much time they need to do their schoolwork. Plus, we need to give them some time on their digital, like maybe watching some videos, taking a break, playing some games. So that's important. All right. Let's move on to the next part. Now, why do we want to reduce screen time? Now, there are a lot of our children these days, there's just too much nearsighted work. Another thing that we're going to look at is myopia, which I'll leave to Dr. Koh to explain in the next part. Now, there's also a lot of kids have insufficient time spent outdoors, right? They're spending so much time indoors, especially with COVID. There was a time when all of us were kind of stuck at home and they're kind of used to that. So we need to kind of encourage our kids to get out of the house, go play some games, basketball, football, whatever it may be, to go and interact as well. So social interaction is important. So why we want to reduce screen time, these are all the benefits of it. These are the reasons why we want to stop them from being online all the time as well. So I'm not just saying, give them full release to do whatever they want online. There are some limits that we need to do. So screen time is an important aspect of it. Now, remember I talked about having conversations with our children, right? About kind of from a young age, talking about the things they're watching, talking about the things that they're doing. Now, another thing that comes up a lot these days is about in-app purchases that kids kind of get into, like spending a lot of money. Then there's a whole credit card bill that shows up on the parents, giving them the shock of their lives, right? Now, so we need to teach our kids about spending boundaries, helping them to understand digital currency. So how do we do that? We need to have conversations with them. It's very important that we have conversations with them. Now, as parents, we have a role to play in educating our children about how video games make money, right? That a lot of times children don't think about it. So we got to have that conversation with them. Just like how we may teach them to save their pocket money, to buy a toy or stationery, we need to explain to them as well, like how can they make sure that they're spending their money wisely, right? To make informed choices about getting good value on their online purchases as well. Because we will realize that as adults right now, we are making a lot of online purchases. So our kids are also going to end up making online purchases. So we need to teach them how does the digital currency work? Why do they need to make critical decisions? Like we need to ask them questions like, how did they discover the item they want to buy in the game, right? Was it good value? What else could they have spent the money on? How much do they think they will spend over the year if they keep buying this product in their game for the next maybe a year or so, right? So that's important. So teaching them boundaries. Now, just some simple rules about online games as well. So we need to set up game devices with appropriate accounts and passwords, especially with our younger ones, like the 4 to 7-year-olds. They may not know what they're clicking on, right? So we need to be very careful. Make sure we have passwords to everything they need to purchase, right? Speak with your children about how they spend the money on the games they play. I think this one applies more to the older kids, maybe the primary 3, 4 onwards, when they start buying things. Whereas with the younger kids, I would say more likely they will just randomly buy it without knowing what they're clicking on, right? So we need to be careful, set the correct password so that they don't do that.
And Alsen, do you suggest that people allow their kids to actually, I would like to say the word invest. I don't really think it's an investment, but spend that money online?
Right. Again, it's a question of teaching them about value. Now, why do they want to buy that? For example, a goodie bag what they call it, a cash upgrade of a uniform, for example, right? Yeah. And why? What does it do to you? Is it important? Can you live without it? So I think it's important as parents, we talk to them about it instead of just telling them, you don't buy anything, you don't spend anything. I think they need to understand what kind of decisions are they making, because it's going to be a lifelong kind of learning for them as well, right? When they grow older, they need to know what are they spending their money on. So yeah, that's a great question, Nitu. It is important to teach them. But I guess you have to find the right age to do it as well. Yeah. Now, earlier on I mentioned about keeping up with the trends, right? For kids or teenagers. Now, some of us may be thinking like this person here, how I feel trying to keep up with today's trend, right? And it's important that we don't give up. Like I said, we need to know what is going on in the world around us so that we can educate our children as well. So there are 3 main areas that I think we as parents need to kind of keep up with the trends. One area is gaming. What are the different genres? What are the top games? What are the AR, VR gaming? What are the different social media types out there? TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and there's going to be more over the years, right? So we need to find out what's going on. We want to talk a little bit about education as well, which is what are some of the school software that the kids are using in school? What are the apps they're using in school? And STEM learning, which is another thing that's coming up these days. I believe Nitu had a story about her own son that was interesting to me. Maybe you would like to share about the STEM learning that we had a talk the other time.
Well, Alsen and I actually were speaking about our kids, and I just mentioned how I always am like, no screen time. But my son actually took Scratch coding. And this, I think, was when he was 4 or 5 years old. And from scratch, he does EV3 Mindstorms. Now he's doing Python. So all screen time is not necessarily bad, but I've always been that mom that's like, don't do it. But by letting him take those classes online, he's like, has now a passion for robotics. And we've entered all these competitions. He's actually won a couple. So as that parent that's always no, there is some good coming from it. And I think that's what we as parents also need to see. Right, Alsen? Like,
yeah, that's
I'm
great.
sure you're going to say, right?
I love that story, because I think we as parents need to know that some of the things we may see right now and not understand it, not really conceptualize it. It may be abstract to us as well. But when we let our children try and experiment, maybe 3, 5 years down the road, then you begin to see why it was important for them. Like, for example, Scratch coding. A lot of us may be seeing these advertisements out there to send your kids to learn coding, right? Roblox coding, whatever maybe. And I think it's important that we let them experience it to know what's there. And maybe some of them might be interested. Another story that I have is about GarageBand. As I used to teach it in school, right? One of the things that we teach was GarageBand and how to create like a simple song, right? And some of my kids, after the lesson's done, maybe a few months later, come and show me on their iPads a song that they created at home, and it takes off, and they're really, really interested in it, and they're very creative, and you can see a different side of them, right? Maybe they may show you something that you never expected, right? So it's important that we kind of expose them to these things, keep up with the trends, find out what's out there, all right? Let me go on before I use up more time. I'm going to skip this slide. Now, again, do not see video games as technology as the enemy, right? They're very useful given the right amount of time within the different limits and boundaries that I told you to set earlier on as well, right? So leverage on their power to equip our children. Now, encourage technology use for learning and creation rather than just consumption. So not just watching social media or YouTube, but what else can they do with technology? Can they create, whether it's learning phonics, reading, whether it's language learning with apps like Duolingo, whether, like I mentioned, GarageBand earlier on, scratch coding that Nitu mentioned as well, social media creation on topics like that interest them. So some of your kids might be very into maybe playing the guitar or the violin, and they might want to record themselves and put it up online. Now, that is another question, which may have different repercussions, but sometimes you might want to have these conversations with them about when is the right time to put up a YouTube performance and using your account or not, all right? Another thing, maybe topics like photography, maybe they take very good photos. They might want to put it up on Instagram. Some of the gaming, sports, Lego, Minecraft, Roblox. So these are all the different areas that your kid might be very, very interested in, and we can encourage them to create rather than consume. So that's one of the things I really encourage us to kind of think about. Parents, if you've not thought about it, what can you get your kids to do that will be creative, something that will use their critical thinking skills, their creativity, right? And not just consume.
Alsen, I
Yep.
think we should move on to the next slide and
Sure.
maybe save a couple of these things for the questions, because I know our audience is very eager to ask you a lot of things.
All right. Yep. Let me move on quickly then. All right. Family games night. So earlier on I mentioned about family games night. So instead of only having board games and card games, one of the things you might want to do is also have a digital games night, which is to play on a console like a Nintendo Switch or something. Now, some things that I like you to think about is to choose games for the entire family, choose games that make you move, and to promote fun over competition, right? Now, apart from all of these digital things that I was talking about, now I also want to encourage you to get out and have fun as a family, right? Find things you can do as a family outdoors. Again, that will help us to have conversations with our children during these activities, right? So the last thing I want to share, which is very, very important, which is role modeling. So we are consciously communicating healthy tech use to our kids. Now, if we, for example, let me share my own story. One of the things that we used to have was a table for our kids to eat their dinner, a table for my wife and I to eat our dinner. And while we're eating dinner, I'll be watching a show on my phone. My wife will be watching a show on her phone. Kids, if they well behave, they'll be watching the TV. If not, they'll be eating in silence. Now, one of the things I noticed is that that's not really healthy, right? We're all doing our own things. We're not eating together. And so we stopped that and we said, okay, let's get the kids onto our table, eat together with us. No one uses any devices. And then what happened is we start talking and they tell me about their day. They tell me about the interesting things that they've come across. We tell them about some of the things that we've come across as well. And that becomes conversation moments, right? Imagine if you take away the TV, so much time is there. So I think that's important, right? Now, I want us to think about some of the current digital parenting rituals that you may have in your homes, right? Now, do they reinforce your values, things that you believe in? Do you actually enjoy these things that you set for your kids? If you were to be the one sitting on the other end. Yeah.
Yeah. So Alison, I actually really agree with you on this dining table rule. We used to be the exact same way. My kids used to eat early. My husband and I used to eat late. We used to watch some sort of adult, movie or show, Netflix, whatever, at night together. And then now we switched as they grow older. I said, everybody eats at the same time. I have a no device rule.
Yep.
Originally, it was a no toy rule. Now, everybody said, no devices. You can only bring books to the table.
That's
So
right.
yeah, I agree. I think that's really important. It really fosters that family conversation. And
That's
before we didn't have it. And I make it clear, this is our family time. Everybody talks about school. That's the only time I think as they grow older that you get.
Yep. That's right. And it really helps to reinforce the idea of conversations, right? Having conversations,
Yeah.
building up that relationship with your child so that they're willing to come back to you when they come across an issue online, for example, right? So yeah, thanks, Nitu, for reinforcing that point. I think it's important. Now, some of the other questions I would like you to kind of think about is about the rituals. Like, are they age appropriate? Are some of the things that you're doing, do they only apply to like maybe primary 5, primary 6-year-olds and not to your 4 or 5-year-old, or the other way around as well? So we need to be really careful. The things that you're setting age appropriate, should you evaluate what you're doing? So I think all of us, even myself included, at different points, we have to evaluate some of the things that we've put into place still relevant to our kids at the age that they're in. All right. Now, only you know the best technology rituals for your home, but there are some research-driven tech rituals you can try. So device-free family mealtime, like Nitu also mentioned, right? Do not use a phone as a self-soothing device for young children. I think especially the young parents out there, don't just give them an iPad so that they would keep quiet in their stroller at home. I think a lot of us do that, but actually it's not good for them. So there's a lot of research that drives that information. Now, another thing that you might want to set is to do their homework before they are allowed to play their video games or to watch TV or to do their social media scrolling. So these are just some examples. It's not an exhaustive list, just to give you an idea. Now, at the end of the day, what do we need as parents? We need to find balance, right? Technology can be a very valuable tool for children's learning and development. Now, we need to prepare our children for the future. There's no running away from that. Our kids are growing up in a very digital age compared to myself or Nitu or even Dr. Koh. Very different world that they live in. So we need to prepare them for it. Ensure that our children are using technology responsibly and safely. So we need to teach them how to balance the use of technology with other activities. So that's why I talked about going outdoors, playing as well, and other face-to-face social interaction. Very important. If they're stuck behind the screen all day, a lot of times they lose out on this social interaction. So it's very important that we kind of make sure our kids are doing both, not just online, but also in the real world, right? So with that, I just want to encourage all of us, find ways to get plugged in with your digital child. Whatever way it may be, find ways to have conversations, whether it may be to start a device-free dinner or lunch, do that. Maybe even if it's just one weekend, maybe a Sunday a week that everyone has a device-free, start with that, if you need to. So let's find ways to get plugged in with our digital child. So thank you very much, everyone. I hand the time back over to Nitu. Yeah.
Thank you, Alsen. That was really informative, and I'm sure the parents out there have learned a lot. I sure did. And I think I need to be less strict, but create some more boundaries. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the Q&A. Next up, we have Dr. Koh. I'm really excited to hear about Dr. Koh because he's going to be discussing, the impact of screens on our eyes. And I think all parents are very concerned with that, including myself, who have 2 boys that are now in glasses. So Dr. Koh, I'm going to hand it over to you for your presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Can I control the slide? I can't control the slide. Give me the. Today I'll be talking about how screen time affect our eyes. Okay, actually, I'm a father of 5 children. 5. They're all very big already. My eldest is already 24, 22, 21, 19, and my younger is 16. So when I hear Alsen talking about the talk, it's actually very educating to me. I miss the time when my children were young, much younger. Now as a father, it's not easy to be a father. I continue to learn. When they're young, we worry about their health, about their eyes, what they eat.
Dr. Koh, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think there might be something wrong with your screen sharing.
Yes, something wrong. Yes.
You might need to click because the green bar is coming through.
Yeah.
Did you get it? Okay, great.
Yes, good. Yeah. So as a father myself, it's not easy to be a father. Okay, we have to learn, keep on learning. Even now, at this age, I have to learn how to interact with my young adult children. Yeah, so having family time together is very important. Thanks, Alsen, for the tips. Okay, today, what we're going to talk about is what happened to our eyes, when we spend so much time seeing near things, and what can go wrong, right? When we have too much near work. So there are actually two things that can affect our eyes when we do a lot of near work. First is the myopia. Okay, we get more short-sighted. And the next one is we got this digital eye strain. It means we spend too much time near, you feel the eye strain, the discomfort of the eye. I will go into more detail later on. Next slide, please. Okay, this is how the normal eye works. Okay. Okay, there's a pupil where the light enters and the iris control the pupil size. Next slide. Yeah, so the light enter the lens and focus on the retina here. Then we can see clearly. So this object at a distance. So what happens when we see near? Okay, when we see near, three things happen actually, three things. First, the lens here had to become stronger. Our eyes need to exert certain amount of strength to make the lens stronger, so the image on the near object can be focused on the retina. So the process we call accommodation. And at the same time, our two eyes must converge at one point so that we can see the object as single. So these two things happens. So when your eye is looking at near for a long time, then the muscle cannot relax, right? So in a long process, we can get eye strain. So this is what will happen when I see near for too long. So in a recent study in Hong Kong, during the COVID time, where people stay indoor and do a lot of screen time, the incidence of myopia rate has increased quite a fair bit. So you look at the slide here, 2015 and compared to 2021, 2022. So there's an increase in myopia incidence. So too much near work can increase myopia. So myopia, what is myopia? Myopia means we can see near. Without glasses, you can see near. But when it comes to far, it becomes blur. So usually there's a three category. If you're 50 to 300, the doctor will consider you as low myopia. 325 to 575, consider moderate. Anything above 600 is considered high myopia. Okay, so the higher the myopia, the nearer you need to put the objects near to your eye to see clearer. So as we know, Singapore is the myopic capital of the world. So many of our young people are myopic. Okay, when you're 18 years old, almost 90% of us are myopic.
That's really interesting, Dr. Koh. I
Yes.
never knew that. Singapore is?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, Singaporean in Singapore. So there are risk factors. Okay, what are the risk factors? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, family history. Okay, because we Chinese tends to get myopic, the Chinese race. Yeah, if your one parent is myopic, the chance of the child develop myopia is 3 times. If 2 parents are myopic, it's 6 times more. So family history is a hereditary. It predisposes us to myopia. And the earlier the person got myopia, okay, the risk of increase is much higher. So the age of onset. Yeah, so if a child has myopia at, let's say, primary 1, primary 2, so it will progress very fast. Yeah. So the age of onset, and also the amount of time spent outdoor. Okay, if you spend less time outdoor, you increase your risk of myopia. And of course, time spent on near work. Okay, near work including handphone, tablet, reading, homework, things like that also increase the risk of myopia. So these are the risks of myopia. So as the myopia get higher, our eyeball grows longer. So our vision for distance get blurrer. Yeah, so why do we need to bother about myopia? Many of us are myopic, we wear glasses, we wear contact lenses, it solves the problem, you can see clear already. But the reason why you want to manage myopia is because the higher the myopia, there are more risks. Okay, what are the risks? Okay, there are complications of myopia. Okay, this is a picture of a healthy eyeball, the retina. Okay, you will have before the slide, okay, the risks are myopic macular degeneration. Okay, it happens to a lot of older people where they get old and they got myopic. So there's a macular degeneration and they need Sometimes they need injection into the eye, to stop the new vessel from growing, to prevent it from losing their sight. You have a retina breaks, you got retina tear. These are a picture of retina tear.
So
And
when
also
does this usually start occurring, Dr. Koh? What's relevant here to us parents, because this is kind of scary stuff, but
Yes.
with us young children.
Yes. So usually this thing won't happen when they are young. It happens when they are much older. So for example, for myopic macular degeneration, once they reach older age, maybe 50 plus, 60 plus, the chances of them having macular degeneration is much, much higher. If you have myopia, the higher the myopia, the higher the risk. Yeah. And also it's not uncommon to see young people having retinal detachment. Yeah. So all these are the complication of myopia. You also got glaucoma. Okay, the higher your myopia, the higher risk is the person get glaucoma. So we're actually managing myopia now so that we can prevent problems in the future for our children. Yeah, that's why we have to be very concerned. Yeah, especially we are aging population, our children are so much into their academic, into screen time. So we want to prevent this. So now is the time to intervene. Yeah. So these are the complications of our myopia. So how do you know whether your child has myopia? Okay, when you have myopia, distant object looks blur, but near object still looks clear. Right. So when they try to see far, they try to screen their eye, make the eye smaller, to see clearer, or they tend to sit nearer to TV so that they can see clearer. Or we see them holding their books or very close to the eye. These are signs that they're having myopia. So when they see things blur, they tend to blink a bit more, or when they squeeze their eye too much, they got headaches. So these are signs and symptoms of myopia. And sometimes can affect their study in school where they can't see the whiteboard, they have to go in front, things like that. So how do we diagnose myopia? Actually, our health promotion board does vision screening. Okay, you just check the vision. Yeah, so it's just only a vision screening. It doesn't replace a comprehensive eye check. So you need to see an ophthalmologist or optometrist to have a more detailed eye check. Okay, we check whether the eyes can work together, whether the child got astigmatism, got long-sighted, short-sighted, things like that. Yeah. So a check is important. Actually, for how routine the check should be, if both of you are myopia, both parents are myopia, and you got child developing myopia, in fact, it's every 6 months, okay, to make sure that the myopia is checked and updated the prescription. If you got no risk, at least once a year, go and visit an optometrist to have the eye checked.
Or if you start seeing some of those myopia symptoms that you talked about in the last time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to go straight away. Yeah. So there are actually now we are quite blessed because we can control myopia now. During my children's time, okay, my eldest is 24. During that time, there's not much control available. Yeah, but now with research, with new products, there are few things that we can do. Okay, first, the easier is spend time outdoor. You need to go outdoor, see things far away, enough sunlight. Research has shown that those children that spend outside more than 2-3 hours a day, yeah, their myopia rate is reduced. Yeah. So there are 3 methods: outdoor activities, optical intervention, and pharmaceutical eye drops. So, okay, next slide. Yeah. So outdoor, Health Promotion Board has been doing campaign to encourage our children go outdoor. Yeah, so going outdoor is the cheapest and most, to me, it's the most effective way to reduce myopia. Yeah, don't wait until your child got myopia, then you go outdoor. Yeah, do it before they develop myopia, so it works best. Yeah, try to spend time outdoor. Okay, next is the optical control. Okay, actually there are spectacles that can control the myopia. It's special spectacle lens. Here I must tell the audience that I will have no financial interest in any of the product that I'm going to mention. Yeah, I got no financial interest. Okay, how the spectacle lens works. Okay,
Dr.
traditionally,
Koh,
yes.
Dr. Koh, I think that we should go a little bit faster through the slides because I can see a lot of questions coming in. So I know that
Okay.
the audience is eager to ask you
Sure.
about this. So
Sure, I try to go a bit faster. So there are
yeah,
one
thank
method
you.
of control myopia is using spectacle lens, and these are special spectacle lens. So the center part of the lens will focus the image on the central part of the retina. That's where we see things clearly. But now we notice that our eyeball is not a perfect sphere. In fact, it's slightly oval. So if you use a normal lens, okay, the peripheral image will be focused behind the retina. So anything that behind the retina will encourage the eyeball to grow longer, so making the myopia worse. So this lens, it works by having this slightly defocus point on the surrounding lens, so the image is focused in front or just on the retina here. So this is how it works. Okay. So anything is on the retina, it will not encourage the eyeball to grow longer. Any image that falls behind the retina, especially this peripheral part of the retina, it will encourage the eyeball to grow longer. So this lens can control the myopia very well. Okay. Next is soft contact lenses. It works the same way, except that the lens is onto the eyeball. So the center part focus the image on the retina, on the central part, and the peripheral part, it focus the image on the side of the retina, bringing the
Dr.
image
Koh,
forward.
is this relevant for parents with younger kids, or what age can you start wearing soft contact lenses? What age can your child?
It's relevant. Once your child develop myopia, maybe by 6, 7 years old, if the child can handle, yeah,
Oh,
it's suitable. Yeah. Even
I'm
for
asking because
autistic.
both my children have myopia too.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah. Oh, I didn't know
Because,
they could wear soft contact lenses.
yes, soft lenses.
Okay.
And these are daily disposable. You don't have to clean them, you just dispose them off. Yeah. But there's a limit here because these lenses doesn't correct astigmatism. But spectacle lens, it corrects astigmatism. Yeah. So these are soft lenses is one method. Same principle, just like it's on the lens. And the next one is auto K lens, it's night lenses. Okay, night lenses works by you wear the lens to sleep. Next day when you take out, you can see clearly. So how it works is because the lens flatten the central part of the cornea, flatten a bit so the image can be focused on the central part of the retina. But the side, once you flatten the center, the side is stiffened. Once you stiffen, you correct this myopic defocus. So this myopic defocus on the peripheral part of the retina helps to control the myopia. So these are night lenses that you wear at night. Yeah. So next day you take out, things are clear, but you need to wear every night. To maintain
my older son wears these, and they're doing really well for him. His myopia hasn't increased since he's worn the ortho case. So recommend that too. And we have myopia control lenses for the other one.
Yeah, my number 4 child also wear this lens. Yeah.
I think they're really good, both, and the glasses too. Both have been controlling for different purposes.
Yes, good. So next is the atropine eye drops. Okay, the higher the dosage, the better the control. Okay, but they got a bit of side effect. The higher the dosage, you have more side effect. Things like glare, unable to read. Yeah, so there are different kind of dosage. Yeah. So the side effect is that you may need special glasses to read and need to wear sunglasses when they go out. Yeah. So there are pros and cons of each method. Okay. Those who prefer non-invasive spectacle lenses, slightly more invasive will be contact lens. Okay, contact lens carries risk. Okay, make sure you must able to clean the lens well, maintain it well. Yeah. So there are different pros and cons. So whether you want to be spectacle free, or you want to do sports, things like that. So each is pros and cons. So we have to examine the eye, see whether the child is motivated to wear contact lens, whether the parents are supportive. Yeah, things like that. So we will make the right recommendation what is best suited for the child. Sometimes we recommend atropine eye drop with spectacle lenses too. Combination. Yeah. So what are the myths of myopia? Okay, so these are the myths, like you know, sometimes you go pharmacy, you see those pinhole, you know, pinhole glasses. Yeah, so pinhole glasses cannot prevent myopia. Okay, you put on, you can see things clearly, but it doesn't make your myopia better or doesn't make your myopia, it doesn't control. Yeah, and eating carrots, you know, it doesn't help to
Dr.
prevent
Koh,
myopia.
I've been eating carrots all my life because my
Yeah.
mother told me that. So I need to call her and tell her carrots don't help. But thank you for clarifying that on this call.
Okay, carrots doesn't prevent myopia, but carrots is good for the retina. Yeah, it can help to slow down retina degeneration, macular degeneration.
So
Yeah.
my mom
So it's
still
still good.
kind of knew something. Okay, so
Yes,
still eat
yes,
carrots,
yes.
but not for myopia. Got
Yeah,
it.
it's not for myopia, but it's good for the retina. Need to slow down macular degeneration.
Okay.
So another myth is that some people feel that, oh, the child got myopia. The more they wear, the worse it become. So these are actually myths. Yeah, so you're not wearing actually can make it worse because the eye had to screen to see far, you know, strain, blur images can make the myopia worse. And some parents like to bargain with optometrists. No, let's say I got -5. Why must give -5? Why not give -450? Yeah, they want under correction. So under correction also doesn't work. Yeah, under correction also can make myopia worse. Yeah, sometimes we do under correct a bit, not because we want to control the myopia, because sometimes the child cannot adapt to high prescription straight away. So we may do a bit of progressive. I mean, we start with a bit lower, but next time we go a bit higher. Ideally, we should correct full correction. We want the child to see as clear as possible. Yeah, so under correction doesn't work. Under correction is actually not so good for the eye, for the myopia. Yeah, so wearing glasses doesn't make your eye worse. Yeah. Okay, next. Too much nail work.
Dr. Koh,
yes.
we are really going to have to go a little bit quicker because I just see these questions. I know the parents are eager to ask you a lot of things.
Okay, sure. So another problem with too much nail work is eye strain. Okay, eye strain. Just now I mentioned that when we read, our eyes have to accommodate, our two eyes to converge. Yeah, so for a prolonged period of time, this muscle will become tired. So what happened? Okay, if you got headache, you know, then when you concentrate, right, we don't blink so much. Once you don't blink, your eyes become very dry. So when eyes become very dry, you feel burning, you feel pain, you know, your vision can be affected. You know, so when the eye is so uncomfortable, then you start blinking. When you start blinking, then the tears start flowing down. So it can cause watery eye, yeah, things like that, foreign body sensation. But sometimes single vision become double vision, you know, or sometimes they prefer to use one eye to read than two eyes. So these are the kind of strains that we may experience. Not even children, even adults. Yeah. So what are the how do we manage screen time management? I think Alsen already mentioned. If you ask me, for the eye sake, if the child is already studying very hard, doing a lot of homework, assessment, not more than 2 hours. If possible, no screen time. Yeah, for the sake of the eye. Yeah. If both parents are myopic, if the child myopia keep on developing, yeah. So try to cut down as much as possible. Yeah. If you want to do games, not on the phone, but on the TV, things like Nintendo, that project on the TV, to me is fine. As an optometrist, anything far is okay. It will not make your myopia worse. But anything near, close out, like handphone, tablet, yeah, it's not advisable. Yeah, so this is my suggestion for screen time. Yeah, I think I also mentioned about outdoor. Yeah, it's not only good for the eye, it's also good for family bonding together. Yeah, we need some sunlight, you know, so that the myopia won't grow worse. You know, last time, prehistoric time, we are all hunters and farmers, right? We don't have myopia. But now, urbanization studying, most of us become myopic. Yeah, I think, yeah. So let's say you need to study, you need to read. So what is the rule? We call 20-20-20 rule. You study for 20 minutes, you rest for 20 seconds. Okay. By resting, we mean you see far. Okay, by at least 20 feet away. 20-20-20. Okay, after 20 minutes, rest for 20 seconds by looking far, anything that further than 20 feet. Yeah. When you rest, don't see anything near. Okay, see something far, or you can even close your eye and relax. So these are we call eye breaks. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, I'd like to thank Hoya for inviting me for this talk. Yeah, thank you very much.
Dr. Koh, those are great tips. I think even as adults can learn a lot from
Yeah.
what you just talked about, especially with the eye strain and
Yeah.
taking breaks. So now it's the portion that everybody's been waiting for. I see the questions coming in. It's time for the answers. So let's get started. Alsen, you're in the hot seat first.
All right, let's get going.
I know. Okay, our first question. As a millennial parent, I grew up with screen time through TV and video games too. How do you think things have changed in terms of media consumption for kids from the 80s, 90s to current day?
I think that's a great
So,
question.
Alsen, are you a child of the 80s, 90s?
Yes, I am a child of the 80s.
Okay.
So thanks for revealing my age, but yes,
The 70s.
I did grow up in the 80s. So I think there's quite a bit of difference between how we grew up and how our children are growing up right now. I think like for myself, growing up, if I wanted to see a show, I had to know what time it would be screened on TV. I had to wait for the exact same time. So on a Saturday morning, if I wanted to watch cartoons, I had to wake up at 9, go and find my TV3, tune the antenna, make sure it's in the right place, get the signal. A lot of kids who are listening right now thinking, what is he talking about? But yeah, we had to have certain times that we could do it. We didn't have free reign, like free control over what cartoons we wanted to watch at any time we wanted. That's the difference, I think, with our kids right now. They go to YouTube, they search for the cartoon they want, they'll find it straight away. They go to Netflix, they can choose what episode they want to watch. And so they can watch non-stop for like 3 hours if you don't stop them. For us, we were limited by the timing of the shows. So I think that's already a big difference between how we grew up and how the kids these days are kind of exposed to the digital screen, right? So media consumption is different that way. So when we didn't have a show to watch, we would go down and play, block catching, football, whatever it may be in the playground, and that was how we balanced our watching TV with our outdoor games, right? But our kids these days, they could be stuck behind the screen forever if you let them. So I think that's one of the big things I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And in my house growing up, we only had one TV, if I'm not mistaken. And I shared that with my parents. And, there were certain times we could watch and we couldn't, versus now we have multiple devices everywhere. Right. So I agree with you. Okay, now, Dr. Koh, this is, I think, a really important question that parents are really all concerned about. Can we reverse myopia? Is it reversible? Is there a cure? What can we do as parents?
One, the eyeball is lengthened, it's grown. It cannot be shortened anymore. Yeah. So, you study structure, anatomy structure, you grow taller, you won't go shorter, right? So the eyeball, once it's lengthened, it will not go shorter anymore. So what we need to do is to control this growth. Control this growth. And a lot of people got this misconception, like doing refractive surgery, LASIK, you can actually reverse myopia. Actually, you're not reversing myopia, you're correcting myopia, but the risk and complication of myopia is still there because the eyeball length is still long. Yeah, you cannot make the eyeball length shorter anymore. So the answer is we cannot reverse myopia. But there's a kind of myopia we call pseudomyopia. Okay, a pseudomyopia means the eye muscle is so strong, keep on contracting, so that this child or this person got this called artificial myopia. So once this muscle is relaxed, the myopia can be reduced. So for pseudomyopia, it can be reversed. But for the axial length myopia, it cannot be reversed. Yeah, and most of us is axial length myopia where the eyeball is long. Yeah.
And this is something you can discuss with your optometrist, correct? Yes, when you go in and they can diagnose your child correctly. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, our next question is for Alsen. Alsen, this is a combination question. It deals a little bit with behavioral problems and symptoms with overexposure to screen time, as well as there's a parent that's concerned that their child doesn't want to study, they skip school, they are basically out playing with their iPhone until their school teachers called home and said, look, your child is spending too much time on their device, on YouTube. And so the teacher had basically told them, I'm just going to read this because it's really interesting. They told me why they need to study just be a YouTuber or influencer or professional gamers can get rich. So the children are now thinking that this is a get rich quick scheme, because we do have a lot of, kids making millions on social media. And what can we do for this? What, as parents, what can we tell our children when our children are coming home with this response that screen time is actually good?
Yeah, I think let me answer the first part, which is about the emotional reaction of kids when they have overexposure to screen time. I think one of the behavioral problems that comes about from that is because of the overstimulation. It causes kids to have poor focus, it depletes their mental energy. And so that's why, it ends up with this explosive behavior. I think there's some research that shows that. So it is related to having emotional, social, and attention problems if there's over exposure to screen time, right? That's one of the things. Now, what happens with the new generation of kids who come to you and say, I want to be a YouTuber, why do I need to study, right? I've had that question as a teacher, like when I have I was teaching music to kids, so we watch some of the music videos, we watch some of the creators of music, right? And they say, hey, I want to do this, and I don't need to study to do this, right? I can play the guitar, I can play the drums. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations with them and say, yeah, you can do that. You can be a YouTuber, but you still need your education to fall back on, because not every YouTuber that starts out makes it big, right? Not everyone ends up being a successful YouTuber. So I think education is still important. They still need to know what it means to study hard, what it means to have discipline, because being a YouTuber doesn't mean you don't have discipline. It doesn't mean that you don't have a degree that's backing you up. So we need to be careful. We need to have these conversations with them. But I would say don't shut them down. Don't say, hey, you cannot be a YouTuber. I think that's not fair to them as well. I think let them try it out. I think they can explore it. I think, if I'm not wrong, Nitu, you shared with your own son.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. So I'm an influencer, and my children actually were on YouTube and all of that. They never wanted to follow me, but my son started his own YouTube account, which I recently found out about, which I'm not for, but I found out he was creating YouTube shorts. And many parents out there probably don't even know what that is, because I don't spend that much time on YouTube. I don't know what that is. So they're kind of like your Instagram reels, somewhat like TikTok. And he's doing comparison videos, like good Batman versus bad Batman. I can't even tell you because I'm not into this, but like Iron Man versus Superman, who's going to win in a battle. And when I looked at it, I found out that it was very, very creative. And he has a passion for video editing. And so my first reaction was like, why'd you create this YouTube page without telling me, you can't do this, you can't post, you can't. But then once I took a look at his videos and saw how passionate he was, and he's created at least 30, 40 videos, I told him, okay, let's work together. I will help brand you properly, so that obviously it doesn't harm you in the future if you're going to college and they see this horrible YouTube page or whatever you've put on social. But let's work together. This is your passion. We can use it to our benefit. But as a parent, my first reaction was to get angry. And, that's, I think most of us on this call are probably like that. Like, what is he doing? Why are you doing this? Why'd you do it without my permission? Yeah. So now that I understand what he's doing, I like what he's doing. He actually shares with me, Mom, look, I'm doing this. What do you think? The other day I was like, oh, this is good. I think you should change the font. And it's very creative. I'm very impressed. He asked me to get higher level CapCut Pro, like just things like, it's great. So I think as parents, we should allow them to develop that hobby. But that's what I tell him. It's a hobby.
And I think the important thing you mentioned is you gave him a frame, like a boundary within which he had to work, so that he could help him out and make sure that he was making the right decisions along the way. So I think as parents, we need to be careful. If we do allow them to explore the social media route, to be an influencer, to create TikTok videos or YouTube videos, don't stop them, but tell them, okay, I want to see what you're doing. Show me what the video is like before you post it, so maybe I can help you to make it better, so that we know that what's going out is good for you, right? So I think that's important. So I think that's what Nitu mentioned as well. So the initial reaction is shock, but then after that, it's giving them a framework from which to work from. The other aspect, which I think I didn't mention earlier in the other question about behavioral issues, I think it's important as parents that we work with schools, with the teacher and the school counselor as well. If you find that what you're doing is not working, it's not, you're not getting through to your kid, then go have conversation with his form teacher, with the school counselor, try and find ways to help, get into, that space of conversing with the teacher, because they will have tools to help you as well. Schools are the best place to start, right? If they can't find a way to help you, they'll refer you to the right agency that will be able to help you as well. So yeah, let me end with that so that I don't eat up all the time. Back to you.
Yeah, I think, but that's I think a lot of kids these days think that being an influencer is easy. And, just to respond to that, it's not easy, and it's great as a hobby, and it builds so many skills if they're doing it correctly. So I think encourage your child to have that hobby, but not maybe as a full-time career at this age. So let me get to Dr. Koh now. I see a lot of questions coming in for him too. So I think a really important question that parents are looking at, Dr. Koh, is what eye exercises can we do to improve vision?
Eye exercise doesn't help myopia. It doesn't help myopia. But eye exercise help the way some people, the two eyes cannot work together, right? They cannot converge at the same point, they tend to diverge out or over convergent. So eye exercise can help to train the eyes to work together so that the child don't see double. Yeah. So there are different kind of exercise. So if the question is about myopia, it doesn't help. Yeah, myopia. But it helps the eyes to work together, coordinate eyes coordination.
And where can parents find these type of eye exercises for coordination, or is that online, or do we ask our doctor as well?
Yeah, first have to diagnose, see whether the child got this problem. If the child got this problem, the optometrist will suggest certain kind of eye exercise. Yeah.
Okay.
So you visit the optometrist or even the eye doctor, they can diagnose it.
And then I'm going to continue with you, Dr. Koh, because I feel like there's a lot of questions coming in.
Sure.
Another thing, is a frequent rubbing of eyes like this a sign of myopia? Like if you see your kids doing that, is that they have myopia, or is that more of an eye strain? What do you think?
Okay, rubbing eye is many factors. The most common factor is ingrown eyelashes for young children. So the eyelashes grow inwards, so they feel a bit uncomfortable. They like to rub, Yeah. So you need to bring the child to the ophthalmologist or optometrist to have it properly checked. So when a child see things blur, when you see things blur, our natural reaction is to rub. Hopefully they can see clear. You see, so rubbing eye is also a sign of blur vision. Yeah, a sign of blur vision, a sign of foreign body, ingrown eyelashes, or even allergy. Okay, when the child suffers allergy, the eye is itchy, teary, they also like to rub. So there are different kind of factors.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, we're back to you, Alsen. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. What are red flags for kids with too much screen time exposure? And how can we do to curb this?
I think one of the easiest signs that you would see is when you take the device away and they have this uncontrollable meltdown, I think that's one of the signs where it's a red flag that, okay, my kid shouldn't be responding in such a way when I do that. I mean, probably the first time you do it, maybe they might react that way, but if you consistently do that, they should start kind of getting used to it, getting the idea that, mom and dad only want me to watch for a while. But if every single time you do that, then I think that's a red flag that they've really been watching way too much, TV or having too much screen time. So then it's important that we find other ways of making, like, for example, if it's a mealtime thing, right? You always put an iPad in front of them when they eat, then find another way of making mealtime fun without the screen, right? Think of other ways that you can do that, like playing a game, making the mealtime interesting for the child without having to resort to the screen. That's my quick suggestion. Was there another question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, there's another one coming in, but another tip I have for parents, I know this was Alsen's question, but I make my children carry books when we go out for family dinners, not at home, but when we go out to restaurants and stuff, just because they finish eating their kids' meal within 5 minutes flat, and then us parents want to eat. So I make them read books because rather than the screen, they
Yeah.
have to bring their favorite book and they read it
Sure.
out there. So I think, Alsen, we have one more question for you. And don't worry, to all the questions that were not answered, we're going to be posting those unanswered questions on spf2023.com. So you can see all the questions that were asked, because there are a lot of them. We don't have time today to get to them, but
Yeah.
we will be answering all those questions online for you. So, Alsen,
Yep.
it's your last question.
Okay.
Is it okay to encourage your toddler that's about 1.5 years old to 2 years old to watch shows like Coco Melon or Miss Rachel? And if yes, how long per day? Is that something we should be worried about our child getting addicted to?
I think earlier on I mentioned about the screen time management and the different age groups. So if they are below 18 months, no screen time. That will be my straight answer, right? Try no screen time at all under 18 months. But if let's say they're older than that and you want to introduce them, I wouldn't recommend Coco Melon maybe, but there are other educational shows that I would recommend, like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. I think Nitu mentioned some time ago to me was phonics videos as well.
Hooked on phonics and
Hooked on Phonics.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
Yes, my boys watched Mandarin cartoons when they were growing up.
Yeah, I think that was one of the very interesting things that we talked about as well, about how instead of making them watch like the English cartoon that they're used to, make them watch Mandarin or another language which they're not used to, which they can pick up and learn as well. So it's a way of learning and they're thinking while watching and not just like, consuming like I mentioned earlier. So I short answer, if they are below 18 months, no, right? But if they are a bit older, you can expose them, but again, keep it short, keep it sweet, and don't like give it to them all the time as well. I think that's very important. Yeah.
And then one last question for Dr. Koh. Dr. Koh, this is your last question. And then as I mentioned before, we will be answering all these questions for you on the website. Okay, are atropine drops safe? Since it's a long journey with drops till growth is completed. So I think you touched upon that a little bit in your slides, but can you just explain, are they safe and at what age?
Okay, actually, how atropine works, we're still not sure. We're still not 100% sure how atropine works. And it has to be a long treatment. And once you stop, there'll be a rebound effect. There'll be a rebound effect. So from all the literature so far, the low dose atropine so far is safe. Yeah, the low dose one. Yeah, but I'm not sure the higher dose, what is the effect like? Yeah. So that's the
It's
best
really
answer.
interesting. Yeah, I haven't even heard about this. I need to go to our optometrist and ask. The Singapore Parenting Festival 2023 is proudly presented to you by MediaCorp and the Asian Parent. This festival is made possible by these key partners. Our gold partners, PCF Sparkle Tops, Dumex Do Grow, and Scott's. Our content partner, Moms for Life, Dads for Life, Center for Fathering, and Hoya.